And today, when I write about Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma, Myanmar, or visit Gaza to see the devastation caused by the Israeli assault on a people under present-day apartheid laws, it is as if a tiny recording of Nkosiselele Africa is lodged in my brain. And because it is there never ceasing, just as your desire to be free never stopped, I know that whatever the disaster I am witnessing will have an end. The people of Palestine, like the people of South Africa, have a right to their land, their resources, their freedom. I know from the world's gradual embracing of the South African struggle that the same will be the fate of the Palestinians. And the why of it is so simple. No lies will live forever. And when a lie is exposed, that Africans are merely savages, that Palestinians are merely terrorists, that women are basically servants of men or whores, there in the bright glare of our collective awareness, it dies. The lie dies. And when lies die, people live. And that brings us to consciousness. And that brings us to consciousness and to Steve Biko. Steve Biko is known as the father of Black consciousness in South Africa. He taught that Black people must investigate and validate their own existence, irrespective of other people's opinions of them, that they must see themselves in the warm light of their own genius, the unique gift that they come into the world carrying to deliver to all of humankind, that they must have faith that they are made perfectly for the singular expression of the divine that they are. This is why one reveres Steve Biko, because, in short, he fully understood that the foundation of any true liberation is self-love. And that reminds me of an earlier poem that I wrote about missing things like car keys, my glasses, and where I parked the car. That short poem in my book, Absolute Trust in the Goodness of the Earth, is titled, Where is that nail file? Where are my glasses? Have you seen my car keys? It is very short, and it goes like this. Nothing is ever lost. It is only misplaced. If we look, we can find it again. Human kindness. There's also a lovely comment from poet Galway Kinnell that comes to mind here, that quote, sometimes it is necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness. This is perhaps where South Africans are, many of them, at the moment, needing the rest of us who have been so deeply inspired and imprinted by your courage, dignity, and beauty of soul and body, to remind you of all this, to remind you of who you are. It is with so much sadness, that one reads about South Africa in recent news. As an activist, a revolutionary, a poet and writer, and yes, for all my daughter's criticism of me as a mother, I am unable to comprehend how you now have a president who has 3 wives and 20-odd children. A president who has been accused of atrocious acts and who seems to have little of the restraint in his personal life that would mean dignity and respect accorded to his people. I am by no means the only person in the world scratching my head over this. I have been in your country for 3 or 4 days. Each day has brought a new disclosure in the news of rampant greed and materialism that quite takes one's breath away. There is news about the desperation of the poor, news of violence and despair, a lack of faith in the persons guiding the country, the feeling that perhaps people have lost the will to guide themselves. Was it all for this? Was Mandela's incarceration for nearly 3 decades and Steve Biko's death from torture for this? For people fighting over mines they own not simply in South Africa, but in battered and bleeding countries, the Congo, for instance, far, but not so far away. Perhaps my heart is heaviest regarding the Congo because I was recently there. As you know, it has become known as the worst place on earth to be a woman. And indeed, while I was there, I witnessed what is happening to our brothers and sisters because of the greed that is devouring their land on a level almost too horrible to contemplate. The people themselves are being devoured, sometimes literally. I know I am not the only one in this room who remembers the beauty and dignity, the grace and eloquence of Patrice Lumumba. That last view of him, his hands tied behind his back, his torturers attempting to force something into his mouth, his proud refusal to open to whatever it was. Then the news later that he had been tortured, had been killed, his body thrown from a plane. And then later, the colonialists placed another African in his place who was not bothered by the rape of his country. In fact, he profited from it. Is this to be the fate of South Africa? Nkosi Sikelel. South Africans of that era, as well as black activists in the United States, saw exactly what was going on. And we wept for the dream of Africa for Africans that we witnessed being lost. All true revolutionaries, like Lumumba, love us. They want us to have abundant, joyful life. Tenderness, said Che Guevara, is at root what revolution is about. Caring for each other, honoring the other in ourselves, ourselves in the other. Namaste. I have seen the hovels, the shacks, the unpaved roads, the unkempt children on one side of Johannesburg, and the mansions behind the highest walls I've ever seen around dwellings in another. What to make of this? What to make of the words of your Constitution, where you profess such an understanding of the unique sufferings of the poor? What to make of the stories one sets outside one's mind? They are so troubling. The young woman stoned years ago for admitting she had AIDS, the rampant rape and other brutality against women and children that appeared everywhere in the news, the disdain often for those who have fallen ill with the disease, the turning away, the, quote, human face Stephen Biko wanted us all to have. And also there is this. My love for Winnie Mandela, whose voice throughout the apartheid years kept alive for millions of us in the United States the reality of the South African struggle. What happened there? We in the United States ask ourselves, can it be that if she is guilty at all of any bad behavior, it is because she is human? And being human and having been treated under apartheid misrule worse than many of us can even imagine, she broke. And after giving us all of her love and substance for so many years, what was the new South Africa's response to her? If we cannot extend compassion to those whose lives prove their devotion and love, who are we that life should smile on our stinginess of heart? We do not understand. We do not. We do not understand. Nor will our children ever understand why a country does not have both its parents. Its father, yes, but also its mother. Neither of them perfect, but both of them necessary for our birth. It was deeply disturbing to many of us in the United States that Bill Clinton, who could not respond to the genocide of 800,000 Rwandans, and even de Klerk are going down in history as more honorable, more smiled upon by many South Africans than Winnie Mandela. How can this be? When I was shown the house where the Mandelas lived, I was struck by the fact that this woman, this soldier, this, quote, man among men, as Abraham Lincoln once said of the indomitable freedom fighter Harriet Tubman, he meant she was, a soldier. This woman is portrayed ironing. I have nothing against ironing. I don't do it very much. But it seems a strange choice, lovely as Winnie Mandela looks while ironing, for someone who spent so much time harassed, firebombed, jailed, stuck in solitary confinement for 200 days, whose every move was monitored and contested brutally by white supremacist Nazi fascist police. It was outside what was formerly the Mandela home in Johannesburg that I heard a version of Inkosiselele I'd never heard before. It came from the mouths of young men who were making a condescending parody of it while holding out their hands for money. Knowing that moment would live forever in my consciousness, I felt I and the South African struggle had lost enormous ground. The African way with women leaves much to be desired, and I am not faulting only the men. Some women are content to be potted plants, here and elsewhere, but most are not. I have a poem about this. A woman is not a potted plant. A woman is not a potted plant, her roots bound to the confines of her house. A woman is not a potted plant, her leaves trimmed to the contours of her sex. A woman is not a potted plant, her branches espaliered against the fences of her race, her country, her mother, her man, her trained blossom turning this way and that to follow the sun of whoever feeds and waters her. A woman is wilderness, unbounded, holding the future between each breath, walking the earth only because she is free and not creeper vine or tree, nor even honeysuckle or bee.